This is task 25, urinary catheter into a male dog. This will be a simulation task today. So I've gathered all my supplies. I have my sterile gloves and my sterile loop for sterile insertion of the catheter. I have some pre-prepared swabs. I have chlorhexidine swabs and alcohol swabs to prep the penis before inserting the catheter. And I have some non-sterile gloves which we'll wear to scrub the penis before changing into our sterile gloves, and this is just to avoid any contamination before we insert the catheter and collect the urine. And then have my syringe to collect the urine. It's in the sterile wrapper, so it will be sterile when we use it. I have a collection tube and then a needle just to transfer the urine from the syringe into the tube. Then I have my catheter. This is a red rubber 5.5 French, which is a good size for the dog we'll be using today. I'm going to go over, get my assistant to position my dog, and we're going to pre-measure our catheter so we know how far we need to insert it to reach the bladder. So I have my dog restrained in lateral recumbency. We're going to go ahead and pre-measure the catheter so we know how much we need to insert before we reach the bladder. So with dogs, we have to go through the penis and up around the pelvis into the bladder. So I'm going to estimate we need to be around there, which leaves us about an inch off left on the catheter. So I just wanted to just confirm that by just palpating and feeling where that bladder is. Oh boy. Okay. So yeah, I was just about right. So I'm going to insert the catheter until we've got about an inch left at the end that I'm holding. Go ahead and extrude the penis. I'm going to go ahead then and scrub it first with the chlorhexidine scrubs, just gently around it, good boy, and then with an alcohol wipe, and then my assistant's just going to hold that in place for me while I go ahead and sterilely glove up. So going ahead and sterilely gloving up, I'm just going to open up my gloves here, making sure not to contaminate the gloves while I'm opening them. And take my sterile lube, place a blob of sterile lube on the paper so we know we can lubricate the catheter nice and sterilely. And then I'm going to also open my sterile syringe and just drop that on the paper as well, so that's sterile for the urine collection. Going to go ahead and pop those gloves on, so again making sure not to touch anything or contaminate them in any way. And then with my sterile gloved hand I can take my other glove and just get that in place there. And then my assistant's going to open my catheter for me. I'm going to go ahead and remove that from the packaging, again making sure not to touch the end to anything and contaminate it. I'm going to go ahead and lube that up in the sterile lube, again making sure to be nice and generous with the lubricant. We don't want to cause any trauma to the dog's penis while we're inserting the catheter. And then moving back over to the dog, we go ahead with the penis extruded, insert the catheter into the end of the penis, working up and round the curve of the pelvis, making sure not to force the catheter, just to feed it through gently until we reach the bladder. So we want to go up to our pre-measured mark. We will also be able to see a little bit of urine come through that tube. So once that was in place, we go ahead and take our sterile syringe from our paper, making sure not to touch it to anything else, and attach it to the end of our catheter. Go ahead, pull back, drawing up our urine sample, and then unattaching it from the catheter, and then removing the catheter very gently from the dog, so just pulling that back, again not forcing it, just allowing it to pull gently out of the dog and out of the end of the penis. We would then go ahead, take our needle, just remove the cap from the end, attach it to our syringe and allow the urine to transfer to the container, or to the tube, sorry, via the vacuum formed by the container and the syringe. So once that was done, we would go ahead and label our tube with all of the dog's details, and then if we weren't performing our tests within the next 30 minutes, we'd go ahead and store the urine in the refrigerator until we were ready to use it.